For decades, the thinking in air combat was pretty simple. Bigger is better. The nation with the most powerful, most expensive twin-engine fighters was just assumed to control the skies. We're talking about the heavyweights, the titans loaded with thrust and bristling with missiles, machines like the F-15 Eagle, the Eurofighter Typhoon, and the F-22 Raptor. They are the kings of the sky. And then there's the Saab JAS 39 Gripen. For years, this Swedish fighter was the quiet one in the corner. A lightweight, single-engine jet from a country famous for its neutrality. To many top-tier pilots and defense analysts, it was a respectable, clever piece of engineering, but ultimately a welterweight in a heavyweight world. It was seen as a budget-friendly option for smaller air forces, a good B-team player. They called it smart, they called it efficient, and in the closed-door briefings and pilot room banter, many called it overrated. It was too small, its engine wasn't powerful enough, and its payload seemed too light to hang when the stakes were highest. It was a fighter built for defense, not dominance. This perception was a comfortable assumption for the world's leading air forces. The Gripen was a known quantity, a fighter whose limits, they thought, were perfectly understood. But an assumption is just an assumption. And in the brutal, unforgiving skies of the world's toughest aerial war game, that assumption was about to be torn to shreds. NATO pilots, supremely confident in their superior machines, were about to get a very, very rude awakening. What happened in the simulated war over the Alaskan wilderness didn't just cause an upset. It challenged the very definition of what makes a fighter jet lethal in the 21st century. In aerial combat, perception is everything. For years, NATO pilots in their cutting-edge F-16s, Typhoons, and even Raptors looked at the Swedish Saab Gripen and saw a lightweight, a respectable but second-tier fighter. Many called it overrated. Then came the war games. In the unforgiving skies of a simulated war, the underdog was let off the leash. What happened next wasn't just an upset, it was a massacre. Now, the United States Air Force never releases official scores, but the reports that emerged from the Swedish team at the 2006 Red Flag exercise in Alaska were so dramatic they were hard to believe. How did this Swedish jet, long dismissed by the giants, reportedly score a 10-0 kill streak on the first day without a single loss and in many cases without ever being seen? This is the story of how the Gripen rewrote the rules and forced an entire generation of fighter pilots to question everything they thought they knew. To understand how the Gripen pulled off such a stunner, you have to get the unique philosophy that created it. The Gripen wasn't born from a desire to build the biggest or fastest jet. This wasn't a plane built with a superpower's blank check. It was born from a nation of just 10 million people who spent the Cold War staring across the border at a massive superpower. This threat forged Sweden's unique defense doctrine, total försvar, or total defense. The idea was simple but huge in scale. If Sweden was invaded, every part of society would become part of the war. The military's job wasn't to match the enemy plane for plane. That was impossible. The goal was to make an invasion so punishing and so costly that no one would dare try it. It was a strategy of pure deterrence and grit. This doctrine created a set of requirements unlike any other. The Swedish Air Force needed a fighter that could survive the first attack, which would obviously hit their main air bases. That meant the jet had to be able to operate from anywhere, not just pristine runways, but from short damaged airfields, and even sections of rural highways that were secretly reinforced for this exact purpose. This was the BAS 90 system, a network of road bases hidden all over the Swedish forests. This one requirement changed everything about the Gripen's design. It couldn't be a delicate hangar queen that needed a huge team of specialists. It had to be rugged, reliable, and easy to maintain in the field, in the freezing cold, with a tiny crew. The goal was for one trained technician and a few conscripts to refuel, rearm, and get the jet back in the air in minutes. For an air-to-air mission, the target was under 10 minutes. This forced Saab to build a fighter that was compact and lightweight. It used a single, fuel-efficient W.A.RMedia engine, a Swedish version of the proven American General Electric F404. A single engine meant a smaller heat signature and lower operating costs, which was critical. Its designers were obsessed with efficiency, using lightweight composite materials for the frame. Its delta wing and canard design gave it incredible agility and the short takeoff and landing stall capability it needed to get off those 800-meter road strips. But to the outside world, these looked like compromises. A single engine felt less safe to some. Its smaller size meant a smaller radar and a lighter payload than an F-15. Its operating cost, famously cited by Janes back in 2012 as just $4,700 per hour for the older models, was so low it seemed suspicious. And while that number is dated and the new Gripen E costs more, the core principle of extreme cost-effectiveness is still there. Critics saw a fighter built for a defensive niche. They saw what it lacked: a second engine, massive thrust, a huge arsenal. What they missed was that Saab had traded brute force for something far more dangerous: a brain. The Gripen was designed from day one to be a node in a network. Long before network-centric warfare was a buzzword, Sweden was perfecting it. The Gripen had what Saab called the world's most highly developed data link, letting a squadron share sensor data in real time, creating a single mind in the sky. One Gripen could light up the sky with its radar, while its wingmen snuck in silently, completely invisible to enemy warning systems. This blend of advanced software, a revolutionary cockpit designed to ease the pilot's workload, and a sophisticated built-in electronic warfare suite was the Gripen's secret weapon. It wasn't about outmuscling the opponent. It was about outthinking them. It was a philosophy born of necessity, and the world's best pilots were about to sorely underestimate it. Exercise Red Flag is the Super Bowl of air combat training. Hosted by the USAF, it's a full-scale simulated war, designed to be as chaotic and deadly as the real thing. For weeks, the skies over Alaska or Nevada become a massive battlefield. Elite pilots from the U.S. and its allies, the Blue Force, fly complex missions against the Red Force, expert aggressor pilots whose entire job is to mimic enemy tactics and exploit every weakness. The Red Force doesn't fight fair. They're backed by surface-to-air missile simulators, electronic warfare jammers, and cyber attacks, all meant to create a lethal fog of war. The thinking goes that if you can survive 10 missions at Red Flag, you can survive 10 missions in a real war. In 2006, the Swedish Air Force showed up at Red Flag, Alaska for the first time with their JAS-39 Gripens. To many, it was a novelty. Here was the little jet from neutral Sweden, about to get thrown into the meat grinder with America's best F-16s, F-15s, and even the mighty Eurofighter Typhoon, a twin-engine beast considered one of the world's top fighters. The Swedes were put on the Red Force, which meant they'd have less support from AWACS and ground control, forcing them to rely on their own gear. What happened next became legend. Again, the official results are classified. The goal is training, not headlines. But stories from pilots and crews always leak out, and the accounts that started circulating from the Swedish camp were staggering. According to a Swedish Air Force flight engineer who was there, Stefan Englund, on the very first day the Gripens achieved a 10-0 kill ratio. 10 simulated kills against Blue Force, with 0 Gripens lost. The reported victims were even more shocking. 5 top-of-the-line F-16 Block 50s and, incredibly, a Eurofighter Typhoon. The single-engine lightweight had reportedly killed the European heavyweight without ever being successfully engaged. The reports claimed the Gripens were never even detected. The stories didn't stop there. In one of the most talked-about tales from the exercise, a single Gripen pilot reportedly went up against 5 F-16s in a close-range dogfight. On paper, that's suicide. The F-16 is a legendary dogfighter. A 5-on-1 should be over in seconds. Instead, the Gripen pilot allegedly used the jet's agility and helmet-mounted display to systematically kill all 5 F-16s, again without taking a loss. These accounts, while anecdotal and unconfirmed by the USAF, sent a shockwave through the aviation world. It wasn't just the kill ratio, it was how it happened. The Gripen pilots were using their data link in ways other air forces had only dreamed of. By networking their jets, they created a God's eye view of the battlefield. One Gripen could light up a target with its radar and silently pass the data to its wingmen. Those wingmen, with their own radars off, were electronically invisible. They could slide into perfect firing positions without the target ever getting a radar warning. Blue Force pilots were being ambushed by ghosts they never knew were there. Beyond the combat stats, the Gripen proved something else. It was tough. Through the whole grueling exercise, the Swedish contingent was reportedly the only one to fly every single mission they were scheduled for. While more complex jets were grounded by maintenance or bad weather, the rugged little Gripen was always ready to go. It was proof that the philosophy worked. The rude awakening was complete. The perception of the Gripen as an overrated lightweight was shattered. That performance at Red Flag wasn't a fluke. It was the result of a design that chose situational awareness, electronic warfare, and flexibility over raw power. The Gripen won by being smarter, not stronger. Let's break down the 4 pillars of its success. The real heart of the Gripen isn't the engine, it's the software. It was one of the first jets truly built around sensor fusion. A pilot is constantly bombarded with information: radar, infrared sensors, threat warnings, data from allies. In many jets, it's up to the pilot to mentally stitch all that together into a clear picture, all while flying the plane. It's an overwhelming amount of work. Saab's approach was different. The Gripen's computer automatically fuses all that data into a single simple tactical map. An enemy spotted by your wingman and a missile site detected by your threat system appear as one clear icon. The system does the hard work, letting the pilot make faster, better decisions. This was supercharged by its data link. A formation of Gripens acts like a single distributed sensor network. One pilot can be the quarterback, directing his silent, invisible wingmen to attack. It turns a group of jets into a coordinated wolf pack. If the data link was the Gripen's nervous system, its electronic warfare EW suite was its cloak of invisibility. The Gripen CD was equipped with an advanced EW system designed to blind and confuse the enemy. It's way more than just spitting out chaff and flares. It's an electronic shield. The system can not only detect enemy radar, but also identify what kind it is and where it's coming from. Better yet, it can jam it with focused electronic noise or use more subtle tricks. One technique is digital radio frequency memory, DRFM, which lets the Gripen record an enemy radar signal, manipulate it, and send it back, creating false targets. The newer Gripen E can even create multiple ghost aircraft on an enemy's screen, confusing them completely. At Red Flag, this is reportedly what happened. Blue Force pilots were flying into a battlefield where their own sensors were lying to them, targeted by enemies they couldn't see. While the Gripen's brain let it control the long-range fight, its design gave it a vicious edge up close. The combination of a delta wing and forward canards makes the Gripen inherently unstable, which, when controlled by a fly-by-wire computer, translates to incredible maneuverability. It has an exceptional ability to turn and point its nose where it needs to go, faster than many heavier rivals. The legend of one Gripen taking down 5 F-16s in a dogfight, though unconfirmed, is a plausible testament to this. In the chaos of a merge, the ability to turn tighter and faster is everything. Finally, the Gripen's most underrated advantage was its ability to just keep fighting. The same design that made it perfect for Sweden's road-based system gave it an operational tempo few could match. At Red Flag, this meant near-perfect reliability. The jet was designed for a quick turnaround. With a small team, it could land, get gassed up, rearmed, and be back in the fight while other, more complex jets were still undergoing post-flight checks. The best fighter in the world is useless if it's stuck in a hangar. The Gripen's reported 100% sortie rate wasn't a surprise to its creators. It was proof their entire philosophy was sound. The Gripen story is a classic reminder that in war and technology, the underdog often drives innovation. If you love digging into the tech and tactics that define modern warfare, you're in the right place. Make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on because you won't want to miss what we break down next. The shockwaves from Red Flag 2006 changed minds. No one was calling the Gripen overrated anymore, but a legendary performance in a simulation is one thing. The real test is how a jet performs under the pressure of real-world geopolitics. For the Gripen, that test came when Sweden officially joined NATO in March 2024. This was a massive shift, ending over 200 years of Swedish non-alignment and putting the Gripen fleet on the front line of the alliance's defense. The question of how it would integrate was answered with astonishing speed. Just a month after joining, Sweden deployed Gripen fighters to Poland for NATO's air policing mission. By March 2025, 6 Gripen Sea jets from the Norrbotten Air Wing were at Malberg Air Base, ready to patrol the Baltic Sea. The real test came in April 2025. One day, NATO's Air Operations Center in Germany detected an unidentified aircraft over the Baltic Sea. It wasn't responding to calls, and its transponder was off. A classic move by Russian military flights. The order was given: scramble. For the first time ever, 2 Swedish Gripens under NATO command roared into the sky on a live Alpha scramble. Guided by NATO controllers, they streaked over the Baltic and within minutes had eyes on the target: a Russian Ilyushin Il-20 Kut spy plane. The Gripen pilots flew alongside the Russian aircraft, identified it, and escorted it through international airspace until it was clear of the area. The mission was a textbook success, but its meaning was huge. It was flawless. The Swedish pilots and their Gripens, designed for decades to be NATO interoperable, plugged into the command structure without a hitch. The Gripen had officially gone from a sparring partner to a frontline guardian of NATO airspace. Sweden quickly doubled down, sending another 6 Gripens to Poland in May 2025 to help protect the logistics hub supporting Ukraine. And the validation didn't stop there. As 2025 ended, Sweden prepped for another key deployment. In February 2026, 6 Gripens from the Skaraborg Air Wing deployed to Iceland to lead the NATO air policing mission there. This is a critical job. Iceland sits in the middle of the Gaiuk Gap, the strategic doorway between the Arctic and the North Atlantic. Controlling that airspace is vital for monitoring Russian activity and keeping sea lanes open. For this mission, the Gripen's unique strengths, fuel efficiency, low operating costs, and all-weather ruggedness were on full display. From the simulated fights over Alaska to live intercepts over the Baltic, the Gripen has proven its worth. The rude awakening that began at Red Flag was now a daily reality for the world's most powerful military alliance. So, what's the real takeaway from the Gripen's story? It's a powerful lesson in strategic thinking and a warning against conventional wisdom. For years, the Gripen was defined by what it wasn't: a twin-engine heavyweight, a stealth fighter, or the product of a superpower. Many dismissed it as a lightweight. Then, in the crucible of Red Flag, the narrative shattered. The legendary reports of its kill streaks and perfect reliability were a wake-up call. The Gripen proved that in the information age, the jet with the smarter brain, the better electronic warfare suite, and the most seamless network could control the fight. Outthinking an opponent could be far more devastating than outmuscling them. This wasn't just a theoretical victory. The Gripen carried that newfound respect into the real world with Sweden's entry into NATO. Its flawless integration and real-world intercepts of Russian spy planes were the ultimate validation. The story of the Gripen is David versus Goliath, rewritten for the 21st century. It proves that innovation isn't just for the biggest players, and that necessity, the need for a small nation to deter a giant, can be the mother of a truly revolutionary machine. The Gripen never aimed to be the biggest fighter in the sky. It aimed to be the smartest. The rude awakening was complete, and the lesson was clear: never, ever underestimate the underdog.